All right, here we go. All right, evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another thrilling episode of Pitch Slap. And tonight, Dan the Man's gonna start us off right with something that he's flying around in his head. So it should be pretty good. So Dan the Man, whenever you are ready.
Sure thing. So I'll preface this by saying, um, this really isn't that developed, and I don't really know if I want to pursue this as a story. Um, but I guess it's sort of a simple premise. I think, I tried pitching this to you last time, and then the Wi-Fi
Oh,
went out stuff it. But in case you don't remember, it's sort of like a thriller. Um, you know, Basic premise is about a woman who are alone while camping. So he in I imagine this could be like a short story. So in this short story, it opens with him like, you know, creeping out like this woman who's all alone camping. She's sunbathing or something, and he's like, got the higher ground, and he's like telling her like all of this information that he knows about her because he's been watching her for a while. It's pretty messed up stuff, but as you can imagine, people probably do that. But in the middle of the story, like it turns out that this woman knows a lot about him, and she's actually been baiting him, because she's been like hunting him. Um, it's sort of like a bait and switch. I figure this woman probably like a detective, who has been like hunting down like a killer of some sort. Um, and she thinks that this guy is her guy. But in sort of like cross interrogating him, and she gets like angry because, he seems to like not know, and he's not giving away anything, and she thinks it's really him, but like she figures out like during the conversation this can't be the guy, um, but at the end of the story, I figure like, you know, her team comes in, her detective team comes in. They take the guy away anyway, because clearly he was up to something shady. But you know, the detectives sort of left with like this feeling of the the girls that she thought were dead, they might be alive still, and the fact that there might be somebody out there still, that she thought she had and she didn't, you know what I mean? So like in the end, like she doesn't get exactly what she wants either, she thinks she's got a nail on the guy, but turns out it's not the right guy. So um yeah, so that's the premise. I've been poking around in my brain, like, past few days with that idea. I was like, well, maybe we'll make her like a medium or a psychic or something, and she's kind of like doing it herself, like she's hunting down the guy herself, and she just has a wrong prediction or something, like it's a bad guy, but it's not the guy she's looking for, so um yeah, like I said, I don't know if I'm actually gonna like put this to the page. So I am open to just like play around the concept to talk about the puzzle pieces in play here. So um yeah, thanks for hearing me out.
no, man, this is a great idea, especially that whole like, looking for one monster and then she ends up finding like another one, right? Like it's not quite the person she's looking for specifically, but it's still finding someone who's just as bad. Like it's still taking one off the street. You know what I mean? So like that's really cool, and then it also opens it like for you to build more adventures with this character. You know what I mean? It's not a one-off, right? Because her task, right, what she set out to do, didn't get finished. She didn't find the girl. She didn't find the right guy. She just found another weirdo who's doing not good things.
Yeah.
So it has a lot of promise in world building, I think, for you. It also sounds like it combines a lot of really like David Fincher-esque elements, and I like that a lot because he deals like Seven or Zodiac, things of that nature.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. When you thought about this, what kind of things like inspired it, Dan?
Uh, well, it's funny you say David Fincher because I like to show Mindhunter. So that was definitely something that was in my mind, especially like the ending, because I don't know if you've seen Mindhunter, Stefan, but yeah, you've seen it.
I'm
Well,
sorry, no, I've seen like 3 episodes.
yeah. Well, there's like they go through like individualized cases, but throughout the 2 seasons that they have a Mindhunter, they keep flashing back to this killer who's like he hasn't been found yet and nobody even knows about him, so they keep on flashing back to him. Um, so I thought like, I thought that was kind of interesting. It kind of like leaves things up in the air like, you know, like is there progress actually being made? So I thought this ending was a little bit like that. Also, there's a great story by Joyce Carol Oates called "Where Are You Going? Where Have You Been?" And it's just about you know, a guy creeping on a teenage girl, and in that story, she actually gets abducted. It's a really creepy story. So, I was thinking of like how can I take like a similar scenario and like twist it a little bit. Um, that story has some supernatural stuff in it, So I was like, well, what would happen if we like tried to make this realistic and we like twisted it in the middle? So yeah, so I guess those are a couple of inspirations.
No, I mean classic, very good choices all the way around, and it's certainly a medium that I think everyone's interested in, right? Like essentially, when you have all these documentaries about all these, various killers and non-do-wellers, and let's face it, people are interested in that kind of stuff. And then I think the setting you picked of like a campground, you know what I mean? Like it kind of has that whole backwoods feel, and I think not that this is like misrepresent people who go to campgrounds, but like there is that kind of like unknown possible shadiness to it, right? Like there are nefarious characters, who hide out in plain sight like that.
Yeah, I think for me like the setting. So I have a couple responses to the setting. I think just the idea of being alone,
Mm.
like for being in the wilderness, especially, when you're alone, kind of like heightens the feeling of being alone. Like you're not near civilization. So um, I just thought like that's potentially pretty scary. But also like this sort of another inspiration for the story, stems from a story that my mom told me about herself. When she went camping and she went ahead of my dad, camping in like the middle of nowhere, and she was like sunbathing, you know, and then she like opened her eyes and there was like a guy like basically kind of like do like being a really big creep, and being like I know about you and stuff, and I know that you're alone. So clearly, like, unfortunately, assholes do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I don't know. I just thought it would be kind of interesting if, like, this woman at the center of the story kind of like was expecting this and like knows this guy's behavior, or like, knows of people with this behavior, so she like kind of makes herself the bait, and then she does the switch.
Yeah.
Like, haha, I got you. So.
Now, I guess a couple questions for this character, Dan, right? Like, a lot of people go to the wilderness to, like, reflect, become one with nature, decompress, that kind of thing. But a lot of times they don't, like, have any skills, like they don't know how to set up a tent or make fire, things of that nature. Your detective, is she Is she like, is this her first time doing it, like camping, or is she familiar with it, you think?
I don't know if it's like her first time camping, but I will say that she kind of plays up. Um, she knows she's being watched, or she
Okay.
suspects she's being watched, so she plays up some of like the you know woman and being alone sort of like archetype.
Okay.
Like not to so I wrote down a couple of things that I think um, I thought were like kind of clever of her. Like, she pretended to be on the phone and like arguing with like her mom or something. And then when the guy's like, oh, when she says something to the guy to the effect of like, oh, I'm not alone. Like somebody's coming, and he's like, no, you're alone. Like I heard you talking to your mom. You know what I mean? But she like faked the conversation. So she's really just like playing with that idea. She brought along a pair of like men's shoes to put outside of her tent. Yeah, I figured like I read a story once. It was a horror story, and it was about camping, and it was about basically a woman um, camping alone. And she put like shoes outside of her tent, men's shoes specifically. So like she thought that wouldn't bother like people wouldn't bother her, you know. And I was like, oh, that's kind of like really smart. You know what I mean? Not to like, um, I don't want this to like deconstruct, uh, you know, the illusion. You know what I mean? Because I think it's a potentially life saving or at least safety affirming illusion. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting. You know,
No,
she has
absolutely.
she has these things that like sort of break the illusion of her being alone, but she's doing it intentionally. So yeah,
The whole idea of like the predator is actually like the predator's pretending to be the damsel, that kind of thing. It's like, yep,
yeah,
come closer. Wait for the right moment, strike. No, that's awesome. That's awesome on a lot of levels, and I'm sure this guy, for one, well, the gentleman who may or may not be the actual person she's looking for, probably figures like she's an easy mark. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's like, I'm supposed to be hiding here, but no one's gonna know. It'll be okay. So, no, kudos to you, my friend. That's great. Now, in it, because it sounds like he gets cross referenced, right? So she does catch him, right? Now, um, is it something where like it's a chase sequence, like he gets away or he gets off, does something, then they're chasing him, and then they get him, or is it more like the cross, once they get him and do the cross referencing, right, cross analyzing, is that more like the end, and they're like, well, this isn't our guy, but he's still going in, like, for other things.
Yeah, I wasn't picturing like a big. I mean, I've only this is a pretty loosely developed story, so maybe it could benefit by like having the chase sequence. You know what I mean? But I thought one thing that might happen is like she, her team is like has her back on this. Like she's, you know, they have surrounded the woods. They have kind of like set this trap for this guy, but like she is essentially in this moment like alone and has made herself vulnerable. So um, like when she cross, analyzes him and is like, yeah, I know a lot about you too, X, Y, and Z. Like I haven't figured out exactly his profile yet. Like if he drew a gun or something, like she would have to act. You
Right.
know, so I can picture her. Like I don't want him dead. But I picture her like maybe having the opportunity and like the drive to like want to hurt him. Like um, she is kind of like swept away with anger, because she's frustrated that um, like he's not giving away like the information she's looking for. Um, like I pictured like she's looking for the bodies of some missing girl that she suspects this guy has, you know, done something to. You know what I mean? So like, I could picture her like getting angry and being like, taking out her gun and like using that as like a forceful thing, and then at the end, like she doesn't fire her gun, like he gets taken away, and then like in sort of like a summation of like what happened next. It's like, it wasn't the guy, and there is hope that those girls are still alive, or there's just another guy out there with a similar profile, you know.
Have you now, like, in doing this, right? It sounds like this detective has she been on this case for like a while?
I imagine so, if especially if you get a little bit emotionally into it, I imagine she's probably been into it. So
Because it sounds like she's pretty grizzled and like perhaps like I don't know, a cool way it could open is like she's still looking for this guy, right? The guy who's killed these girls, and something maybe doesn't go right, and her police chief, like I'm sure you've seen in movies or TV shows when they tell him like, look, you need to take a week off, and I'm not like it's a dead end. We don't have anything, and what you're doing, frankly, is dangerous, right? You need to recharge and come back. And then she's all, like any detective who's invested in it, like, you're not taking me off this case, like that kind of deal. And then,
yeah,
ultimately it's like it's out of your hands. You're off the case. And so then she decides to take her break or vacation where like like somewhere within like the hunting ground of like the last three girls that have been snagged, and it's this campground. Or like maybe she gets something from a snitch, right? Like a CI gives her a tip and she doesn't hand it over, so she goes there. And that could maybe explain, if you want to do that. I think honestly you could just roll into like the campsite, not even have this like cold open like how Rob was doing things. But that'd be really cool. But it sounds like she's a very interesting character. Equally, it sounds like the bad guy is also a very well thought out character, right? He has his own desires and plans, and he's built head to toe. You know what I mean? And I think the fact that you incorporated some creepy stuff that actually happened in real life makes him a little bit more scary.
yeah. I think I haven't really developed his profile yet, so like I'm happy you think that, but like I don't really know much about like him or the detective. I like the route that you just went down for like the character of the detective, like the grizzled detective taking things too far, um, you know, putting themselves in harm's way, you know, in pursuit of like truth. So
No, absolutely. And there are like I know you listed a couple books that you've referred to, like is perhaps like something to go back to and information, and then like David Fincher. There are a couple movies that I think if you're interested, they might be helpful as like research or just like to tap into some of your ideas. The film called The Silencing deals with like it's not a campground, but it's a nature preserve where there's a serial killer who's killing like hikers and stuff like that, specifically young women. And it's very good. It has that kind of whole backwoods noir type thing. Another one, Taylor Sheridan, who did Sicario, he wrote and directed it. It's called Wind River.
let me get a pencil here, Stefan. In case I get an inkling. So Wind River.
Wind River. It's about a tracker trying to find someone who's killing, Native Americans. I think either on or off the reservation. And then The Silencing was the first one. It has to do with like a nature preserve. This guy's killing young women and hunting on this specific area of land. And then there's another one where you talk about this person who's putting herself in harm's way, right? It's called The Night Hunter. And basically, there are two people. And there's one guy who does the actual killing, and then his female counterpart who is the bait. Right, and she's just as lethal as Ben Kingsley is, but they're a team, right? Because obviously she's way better looking than Ben Kingsley, but she disguises herself as being a younger woman to attract the creeps, and then together they take them down and kill them. I think all three of those might have some tidbits that might be helpful, for at least for any info,
Yeah,
research wise. But
I,
this,
I mean, I'm always down for a good movie. So,
yeah, no, and at the very least, they're good flicks. You know what I mean? So like, they're all really good. Realistically, The Silencing and Rin River, I think, are the best. Night Hunter's not bad, but they're all pretty good. But I do hope this is something, if you do continue on with, like, because it's a really well thought out idea. It has very good, I think, bones. I think there's more meat on it than perhaps you're giving yourself credit for, but it's really good. It's really, really good. If this was a movie, right, like, I would buy this already. But who would you cast in it as, you say, your detective and your creepy guy?
mm, I don't know, Steph. I haven't really thought about that. Do you have some recommendations?
I feel like Julianne Moore would be really good as your detective, and
Yeah,
I almost want to tell you Nicolas Cage would be good. Like I'm talking like dramatic, like that trailer from Pig, like
yeah.
that Nicolas Cage as the weirdo would be good.
I think they would be good like counterparts. I would like to see Julianne Moore and Nicolas Cage, you know, battle it off in a movie. So yeah,
Yeah, but no, man, this is really great. I like that whole idea is like, yo, you're looking for a monster in a sea of monsters. You know what I mean? And you
hmm
don't know who's who. It's like, oh God, what's that game? Among Us, right? You don't know who the
yes.
sus is.
Sounds like you're really into that game now that your kids introduced you to it.
Oh man, I am. Courtney and I played it the other day. It was pretty cool. But like,
Yeah.
it's like real life, well, literary Among Us, because like you're like, okay, there's me at this campsite, and there's this weird dude. Is he the guy? Is he not the guy? You know? Or it's
hmm
like how you can have like two be like the guy who's killing people, and it'll say, oh, one remains, and that's kind of like your story. Well, you got one guy, but one still remains. You
There
know?
you go.
That's pretty choice.
Yes. Well, thank you, Stefan. Thank you for your input, um, for the movie recommendations. For everything. You're pretty boss at listening to ideas. So
No,
thank
I,
you.
I appreciate that, man. But no, this is awesome, and I hope you continue on or keep us posted about it. Obviously, but either way, this is informational property of Dan Simcock. You can't steal that at premise, um, unless he gives you permission. But you can't.
You can use it. It's okay.
Maybe we should make this a movie.
Mm, it's up to you, Stefan.
All right.
I am fully I don't think I'm gonna write this story. I'm gonna be honest. Like I just thought it would be an interesting like thought experiment,
Hmm.
but I don't think I'm gonna write the story.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right. Well, you never know. You never know. Maybe not right now.
yeah.
Not right
Maybe in the
now.
future.
In the
Never say
future.
never.
Exactly. Like James Bond.
Right.
Dan
Or
Bond.
Justin Bieber.
I feel like that's the only time Justin Bieber and James Bond have been like uttered
Yeah.
on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
You're welcome, Justin Bieber. Dan did that for you.
You're welcome, Justin Bieber.
That's what's up. Well, all right, guys. This has been awesome. Thank you for tuning in,
Thank you. Stay gold.
and we will see you next time.